I'm tired. I'm tired of something. All right, let me tell you. There are certain things that become very common in like the vernacular, right? The shared vocabulary of basically everyone, whether it be aura, right, a word that's taken off recently, or any other phrase or whatever talking about the game, positional play, Gegenpress, like certain things just become in vogue, and then they start to be used in a way where they were never used originally. They were never intended to be used in that way. In one of those phrases that really, really, really has been driving me up a wall recently, and I saw an article that just kind of set it off, is this idea that certain teams don't play football, right? This idea that when you look, and something happened to the Olympics that I'm going to get into that has to do with this, because this concept that there are certain ways to play the game that are anti-football, that they're not playing football, and how dare they not, come out and play against us and everything. And that has become dramatically overused, and I don't even really think that it should be used too much to begin with. Now, I realize there's a lot of irony in this with somebody with my accent having any sort of deep takes when it comes to soccer, to football. But, hey, look, I'm just a dude sitting here talking, and I've got something I would like to talk about, because Jenny Hermoso, who is a star player for the Spanish women's team at the Olympics, remember the women's Olympic tournament, much bigger deal than the men's, she came out and said, after losing to fucking Brazil in the semifinal, that they don't play football. So let me drop this in. As an American, this really shouldn't be my place, right? And I don't blame Jenny Hermoso. I've never lost an Olympic semifinal, and I'd imagine if I did, I would give a much more heinous press conference than she did in terms of being frustrated and not being able to handle that kind of pressure. So I have no real issue with Jenny Hermoso at all. She's a fabulous player. But my bone to pick here is we're talking about Brazil. All right, we are not talking about literally anybody but Brazil here. Brazil lives and breathes this sport. If you had to pick one country in the entire world that represented the ethos of football, of soccer, it would be Brazil. They are the nation that dictates what is cool and what is not, what is in vogue and what is not. They play the beautiful game. England doesn't play the beautiful game. France doesn't play the beautiful game, right? Germany doesn't play the beautiful game, as it's dubbed, even though all those countries except for England can definitely win stuff, or Italy or Spain, all included in this conversation. Brazil plays the beautiful game, right? Because they're the people that, one, they've got the most men's World Cups, right? And two, they produce the most players that inspire. They produce the first global superstar in the sport. They produce the most creative, most exciting, explosive players that have ever existed in large quantities, right? I'm not making a commentary on Messi or whoever else you think I might be making a commentary on, but there is no argument that Brazil is like the id of football. It just is. And so if we have reached a point where we are looking at even the Brazilian women's team, and we are going, they just don't play football, that phrase has immediately gone too far. But there are other parts of this that bother me, maybe even more than that. But the moment that you see, like, well, after our loss to Brazil, we're just claiming that they don't play football, right? That's what's going on. But look, you're reading all this before you even know the score of the game. This wasn't 1-0 Brazil on a catastrophic defensive mistake from Spain. And this match did start on a catastrophic mistake by the goalkeeper that allowed Brazil to get an early goal. And remember, Spain does have a leg to stand on here. They are the reigning world champions on the women's side. And obviously, they are a nation that produces footballers at the level that maybe on the men's and women's side combined can't be matched by almost any country in the world. But this was not a 1-0 match. The score of this match was fucking 4-2. It was 4-2. I mean, unless the goalkeeper turned around and passed it into her own net 4 times for Spain, in which case, bring out, the investigative teams here. Brazil scored 4 goals in this match, and 3 of them weren't catastrophic defensive mistakes from Spain. Right now, typically they don't play football has been used to apply to people that are playing anti-football. They score 1 goal and they just start time wasting. Right? Or they a close game, or maybe the match is even level and they're just trying to kill the game off in order to get to penalties. right? And that is where this concept initially came from, right? Masters of the dark arts. You think of Atletico Madrid, you think of Argentina, right? At the World Cup or Copa America or anywhere else, like Argentina's ability to just run that clock down the moment they've got a lead, just employing every single little trick in the book to get under your skin and needle you and make you foul more, and then all the time getting wasted. That phrase, they don't play football, or anti-football, can be applied to that sort of stuff. But if we're looking at a match where Brazil pumps you for 4 goals, you can't say this. You can't say this. It doesn't make any sense to say it's anti-football if you've lost the match 4-2. But apparently that is not the sort of thing that she's actually trying to say here. She said they study us, they know how to hurt us, to play behind our backs. For me, it's not football. I don't like this football. So wait a second, right? Like we've hold on. That changes everything we're talking about here, because we have now gone from they're playing anti-football and they're not playing football to they're not playing a football that I like, which is what this phrase maybe has turned into. So let me let you in on a secret here, right? I don't mean to go all Jose Mourinho on you, but the point of the game is to win. Okay, the idea behind football, right? The basic concept is to score more goals than the other team. Now, I love the beautiful game and everything, and obviously that's something I was just talking about Brazil being known for here. But if you are on the field, if you are in between a couple of lines, there's a goal at each end, you're playing football. You're not playing football, right? Like that is the soccer, right? You are soccering, okay? Just because you're not doing it like Pep's Manchester City doesn't mean you're not doing it. There is more, to borrow a phrase from my own grandmother, there's more than one way to skin a cat here. There's more than one way to get the job done in these circumstances. The idea that football is only supposed to be played in one way isn't great, because you know what? As much as I just, extolled Brazil's virtues going into this tie, they're not as good as Spain. The Spanish women's team is the best team in the world, according to the last tournament that was used to measure this sort of thing, which means Brazil is coming into this match knowing that it is not as good as Spain. But Brazil, being a competitor, knows that they want to do whatever they can in order to be able to win this game. So they came up with a very good game plan, as Jenny Hermoso points out. They know how to hurt us. They played behind our backs. Direct football is still football. It's literally in the direct football. You're still playing the sport. Okay, just because it's not the exact way that you believe it should be played. Now, the only reason that you hear players and coaches talk about all this stuff in post-match press conferences, Jenny Hermoso being no different in this case, is because they want the other team to play the way that they're playing, because they know they're better at the way they're playing than the other team is. Right? I mean, in Manchester City, every team that Manchester City played against had a goalkeeper trying to pass it off his own goal line. Right? Manchester City would win every match 6-0 because Manchester City is just better at that. Manchester City's literally signed a goalkeeper who is uniquely designed in a lab somewhere to be able to play that sweeper keeper position the way that he does, right? If every other team tried to play like Manchester City will beat them because they're the people that know how to play that way the best. It's why Real Madrid doesn't. Are we calling what Real Madrid does to Manchester City not football? Because it is. Because it wins. Are we saying Manchester City's not great at football, that they don't understand football, that they don't know football because they play a different style that's maybe less aesthetically pleasing, that's about moments instead of match control, and then they're able to actually win the match anyways? Right? The whole argument for playing the same way that Gareth Southgate and anybody else would be playing, in that kind of control the match type style that was driving everybody crazy at the Euros for certain matches, is that, well, you were doing that because it allows us to be able to win the game. So Brazil setting up a beautiful tactical plan to be able to exploit Spain's weaknesses, even though they weren't necessarily coming out to play football the same way that Spain was, doesn't make them a worse team. In fact, we just played a game to decide who was the better team, who was better at putting the ball in a net than the other team, and Brazil won. And it seems like Jenny Hermoso, in the course of answering these questions, said the same thing. They score 4 goals against you from a team that, for me, doesn't play football. But in the end, what counts are the goals. And to give her credit, she said, I think it was our fault. We didn't play football either. I liked our second half, but it was difficult with the score of 4-2 to our opponent. I mean, that's talking about, the dark arts being employed when you're up 4-2. But I've always said this when it comes to the dark arts stuff, right? That if it's against your team, you hate it. If it's for your team, you love it. Now, I wish that the administrative organization, I can't remember what the name of the referee organization that like sets the rules is, but I wish that organization would add in more measures to try and limit the dark arts in some ways. But right now we've got the rules of the sport and the goal is to win. And Brazil won, right? And just because they didn't play the type of football that you think that they should be playing doesn't mean doesn't mean they're not playing football. Wow, I really stuck the landing on that sentence. I don't know. I just saw this headline and it set me off and I turned on the camera and then I ended up here. That's usually how it works. Am I losing my voice? I don't know.